Okay, you need to have out page 9. You should have done this. If you haven't done this, stop. You're not on this video yet. Go read your agenda. I'm serious. You need to get this done. After this is done, check with the answer key. Now that you've done that, now you're ready for this. But if you have not completed this stuff yet, you need to do that first. You cannot do this next. Follow your agenda. Read your agenda. So now we're going to get into some word problems. There are 2 types of word problems that you're going to see for how to write your domain and range, and it's going to depend on the type of problem and what it says. So let's look at this first one together. So it says that Carrie has a job babysitting a family in the summer where she gets paid $45 per day. The parents work between 4 and 5 days each week, which means she works between 48 and 60 days in the whole summer if she works for 12 weeks. Her income for the summer can be modeled by the function I of D is equal to 45D, where I is her income and D is the number of days she worked in the summer. Okay, so the first question I asked you is, what is the independent variable? So we've got these 2, I and D. I is her income and D is her number of days. Now recall that this, like f of x, is the same as y. And is y the independent or dependent variable? Y is the dependent, so I is the dependent. Now over here, D, whichever one is in the parentheses, is like x, and x is your independent variable. So D, which stands for the number of days, that she worked in the summer. That is the independent variable. If this asked you for the dependent, you would have said it's her income for the summer. Okay, make sure you're reading this question if it's asking for independent or dependent. Now it asks for you to give the domain and the range using inequality notation. Okay, so recall that domain is x, but in our problem we don't have x. What variable is in place of x? D. And D stands for the number of days she works in the summer. So we're going to come back up here. It's going to tell us something about the number of days that she works. It says that she works between 48 and 60 days in the summer. So you're going to write that as a compound inequality that you learned in 3.3. You put your smaller number first, then it's either a less than or equal to sign. She works somewhere between 48 and 60, which means we're going to put a less than or equal to. Then you're going to put your variable. Well, for our domain, we're using the letter D. So we're going to put D, and then less than or equal to. In our case, we're going to use an or equal to, and then our bigger number. So for inequality notation, it's the smaller number, your inequality sign, whatever variable you're using for your domain, which has to come from your function, and then your inequality sign, and then your larger number. The domain numbers will come from the problem. We had those right there. No guesswork on our part, no math at all, right there. The range, however, we're going to need to do a little bit of work. So first of all, the range variable is I. I would prefer you actually use this whole variable, I of D, because that is technically one big variable. Now we need to set it up the same way of a small number, our inequality sign, variable, inequality sign, large number. But we need to figure out our numbers. using the function that's given. So we're going to plug 48 in for D. So I'm going to do in Desmos 45 times 48. So because my function says 45D and my first value is 48, I'm going to do 45 times 48. And I get 2,160. So that's the number that goes first. I use my 48 in my function. I'm going to keep the same inequality sign. So if it was a less than, I would keep it a less than. If it's a less than or equal to, I'm going to keep it a less than or equal to. My variable now is going to be I of D. And then I'm going to keep the inequality sign. And then I'm going to take 60 and plug it in for D into my function. So I'm going to do 45 times 60. And I get 2,700. So here's my domain, 48 less than or equal to D less than or equal to 60 from the problem. And then 2,160 less than or equal to I of D less than or equal to 2,700, which came from plugging these numbers into the function. There's your domain and your range. Now, the next question asks you, what does the ordered pair 50, 2,250 mean in the context of the situation? So this is like X, but in our problem we're using D, and this is like Y, but in our problem we're using I of D. D stands for the number of days that she works. So this says if she works 50 days, that's this part. If she works 50 days, this I of D is her income. So if she works 50 days, she will earn $2,250. That's what this means in terms of our problem. You should try the second one. You should try this one before you continue this video. So pause the video, try this problem. You would maybe want to check it with the answer key before you continue. And now we're on page 10. So in this one, we've got that a movie theater sells tickets for $7 and has 150 seats. They can use the function f of n equals 7n, where f represents the profits and n represents the number of tickets they sold. We're going to find the range of the function when the domain is 0, 50, 75, 125, and 150. So the first question asks us, what's the independent variable? So independent is like X, but if we look at our function, which variable is like X? Is it the f of n or is it the n? So remember, f of n is like y. This n, whichever one is in the parentheses, is like X. So in ours, it's really n. This is a little arrow. And n in our problem represents the number of tickets. Now in this one, it gives us the domain, 0, 50, 75, 125, and 150. We just need to find the range. So since it's in these squiggly brackets, our range is going to be in the squiggly brackets. And this is very simple. You're going to take 0, plug it in for n. 7 times 0. Well, that's 0. I know that one. Comma. Now you're going to take 50. Plug it in for n. No, it's not so easy. So I'm going to do 7 times 50. And I get 350. Then I'm going to do comma. Then I'm going to take 75. So I'm going to do 7 times 75. And I get 525. Then I'm going to do comma. What do you think I'm going to do next? The 125. So I'm going to do 7 times 125 and get 875. Then I'm going to do comma.
Could I please, a
150.
Go to the loading dock, a custodian to the loading dock, please.
And I get oops, my bad, 1,050. Now you're going to want to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers in the domain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers in the range. So end your bracket and you're good. That's all you have to do. That's now your range. And you're done. So now you're going to finish any problems you haven't finished on the back of page 9, if you didn't finish all of those, and then the rest here on page 10. Finish them all, and then check them with the answer key.